We're live. I've waited those couple of seconds because I never know if it really is live. It jumps up to 6 seconds or something. And normally I'd start with some sort of pithy introduction and try and make a joke and do all that sort of thing. But this is a subject that has had me losing sleep, and it's search and rescue. And if I think search and rescue, that it really is, there genuinely is only one person I think of, and that's Gene. Now, for one reason or another, I've been knocking around with Gene for more than 10 years, and we've gone from a place where drones and search and rescue was almost like a nice idea and like a thing that could happen, might be a thing, make platforms, maybe they work, maybe they won't. And I think we've reached a point where it does work. In fact, I think it was yesterday or the day before DJI, I think at least 500 people have been saved because of RPAS. And a couple of weeks ago, I was called because somebody knew I had a drone. I've got a Phantom 3 Pro, it might even be in the background here, and somebody genuinely was lost and needed finding. I responded, and lots of other people responded, but I felt uneasy. I felt like I was not doing the job. I wasn't making any effective use of the equipment I have or had. And I asked Gene if we could have a chat, but I didn't want to preempt this by saying, let's talk about this, that, and the other, because I want to try and get some, and I know I'm going to get some genuine answers out of him now. So my first question to you, Gene, is, here I am, I've got a Phantom 3 Pro or a Mavic or a whatever. I've been asked to find or help find somebody. What should I do? What's my immediate action?
Well, if you are serious about getting into the drone search and rescue side of things, which is obviously something that I've tried to fine tune, if you will, for many years, and if you're serious about it, then you need to study some on it. If you're going to be out in the world where there are so many different variables, you need to learn as many variables as you can. And I'll tell you, one of the first things that I did is I picked up this book right here. This is by Robert Koster, and he came up with a lot of different studies to help kind of predict where a lost person might go if they're truly lost. And there are many different scenarios in here for Alzheimer's disease, for young people, for old people, for injured people, that sort of thing. And that gives you an idea of what is going on in somebody's head who is actually lost. And then secondarily, there is this book by William Sauerteck, Analysis of Lost Person Behavior. And this is just as dry statistics. And these are just of missing persons cases, so that you at least have an idea what you're up against when you go out to a search. Now, I will say that the lost persons behavior, they also have an app that you can use on your phone, which is very helpful. So you can put in some of the triangle formulas that he uses, and you can get kind of an idea. Now, I can tell you that is just scratches the surface. You're going to have to go out there, and you're going to have to learn, and you're going to have to know what the limitations of your equipment are. The Mavic at a 12 megapixel imager, Mavic 2 Enterprise with the higher megapixel imager is a good aircraft. It works well, it flies a long way, and it takes pretty good images. I will say that the little FLIR that's in that dual is nigh on useless. After about 75 feet, it's so difficult to really do anything with any accuracy on it. So more than anything else, it could frustrate your efforts to try to get anything done with it. So it's for very gross sort of heat detection. You can use that, but to really do anything beneficial with what we call FLIR, it needs to be at the very least, 320. And ideally the highest is 640 by 512, which, that's what I run. And of course you can make out people very clearly at a decent altitude. And that's something that a lot of people don't have access to.
But you say make out people. Is that make out people if you, where my head's going there is, we back in Air Force days, we had photo interpreters. So you'd see a photo and I'd go, oh, look, there's a photo. There's some countryside. And the photo interpreter would say, no, there's this, that, and the other, because they were trained and skilled in looking at that image and seeing stuff that the layman would never see. So when you say you can see a person in that image, do you mean you as somebody that knows what you're looking for can see it, or anyone could see it?
Okay, what you're talking about is something that I spent a great deal of time and effort on, is being a squint. You actually, squint the picture. And as you've so noted, that you can show pictures of 5 different people and they'll see 5 different things. And we are trained, whether it's a FLIR or not. FLIR is a detection system, okay? An image is just an image. And it's up to you, either use the standard issue Mark 1 eyeball to look at that picture until you see something that doesn't fit, and that's being a squint.
Okay.
And I will say that I have been working with a company out of Wisconsin. It's called Locate, LOC, the number 8. It is the first image analysis software that I have ever come across. And when I saw it, I was so excited about it that I told them I want to be involved. Whatever it takes, I want to be involved. And it is an incredible quantum leap in the ability for you, me, or anybody to detect objects in a picture using color.
Okay, and so, all right, I'm jumping aside. I haven't prepared. Perhaps I should have prepared. So what happened in the event I was at was 7 people turned up with RPAS. And so we had the potential perhaps for a huge amount of imaging across quite a large area.
Yes.
Let's say we do a kilometer square. That's 7 kilometers square per flight. Can you, with this system or any other system, where am I going with this? Where am I going is, so imagine, first of all, are we taking video or are we taking stills?
Okay, and again, since I've been associated with this company, my thinking has been completely turned on its ear. Back in the day, yes, you're so right. We can take literally thousands of images. And it takes what I call a good squint. My wife is probably one of the best squints around. And if she goes through an image and she says it's cleared and there's nothing in there, I truly believe her. But it takes her about 2 minutes to look at one image very, very carefully, because you zoom in, you have to look for things that don't belong. It's a very tedious process. And in my view, it is one of the most important crew members in your team, and it is the most demanding, because you have to go through each one of those. It's so tedious and you have to stay focused, and it's really difficult. Now, again, this is why I got really excited about Locate, is that it can scan an image, a 20 megapixel image, in about 1.8 seconds. So if
what's it looking for? How does it know? What I was just going to say was, so a person would intuitively know if a rock was a rock, a tree was a tree, an elephant balancing on a branch of a tree was an elephant balancing on a branch of a tree. But how does software know what is different? Okay.
One of the things that you almost always get when you go on a search, so, well, this person was wearing a blue hoodie and had on blue jeans, and we last saw them wearing a red hat, or this, that, and the other thing. You tell the software that.
Okay.
Even better, you can take a picture. If someone has a picture of the victim wearing what they're wearing, this happens very often. security camera, whatever. It doesn't make any difference. You can take a sample of that, plug it into the software, and it'll scan those 1,000 images looking for that color. And the good thing about it is that it will go down to the pixel level.
Okay.
And whereas this thing, if you're looking at 20 million pixels, and this is some of my research, the human eye can see about 12 million pixels, 12 million colors. Okay. A JPEG image that we take with our drones, that standard 20 megapixel image, has about 17 million color possibilities in it. So we're already leaving something on the table by using this, right?
Sure.
And having to go through each one of those images so methodically, again, takes time. When you can have, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm sorry, I'm jumping in on top of you. So we're talking about using, we prefer to use still images, because everyone, again, at the event, and Mick's saying, just like the search for Outback Joe, exactly, yeah, sounds like Trigger software. But everyone rushed to video, whereas that video was the deemed to be the thing. I'm talking about me. I shouldn't be talking about me. But what I instantly thought was, the first thing is, because we in our corner of Africa, we don't have good maps. So I thought that the base thing we could do was create just a generic map of the area for people searching. So forget searching for the person or whatever. In fact, before we talk software some more, let's wind that back. So your asset is, you've got 7. Let's just say Mavics. You've got 7 Mavics, right, that you can play with. How are we going to deploy these 7 Mavics that are complete volunteers that have turned up? And nobody knows each other. Nobody's ever met anybody before. How are we going to be as effective as we can possibly be in the shortest amount of time?
Okay, one of the things that we've had to concern ourselves from day one is whether you got 100% coverage or not. It was so easy, even with drones, to leave big gaps. The next thing that I would suggest, if you had your 7 Mavics out there, is to go get a free software from Pix4D. It's called Pix4D Capture.
Yeah.
So you can assign grids to each team as a search coordinator. And this is what I would do, okay? If they had the software, great. If they didn't, I'd recommend that they downloaded it before they came out. And then you would assign each one of those a sector. They would fly it. And you know that with Pix4 Capture, you've got 100% coverage. Because you're doing the overlap, you're controlling everything. So you know that there's no spaces, you don't have to worry about empty zones or anything like that. So there you have the basis for, one, building a map, okay? And then secondarily, you have information to start with that you can give your ground troops, right?
Yeah.
If you should be so fortunate, and I pushing software, that's my thing. I mean, I'm a IT guy from a long way back. And being able to have the computer do some of the work that we've kind of left up to the fallacies of the human brain and the sensors that we have, has been problematic. So I'm going to say,
sorry, go on, Gene. Sorry, keep saying. Sorry, Gene.
If you can use it and you can keep the tech going, you can not only collect the data, you can assemble the data, and you can distribute the data. And, the distribution of the data is something that your ground troops are going to have.
Yeah.
You need to be able to send them to targets. You need to be able to show them that there are obstacles in their path that they're going to have to overcome. Forewarned is forearmed. If your troops go out there and there's a big crevice and they have to stop right there and then circle back around, you've just lost all that time.
Yeah. So is there anywhere a generic, before we get to having some fancy, so that's getting us some images. So we need to have some sort of way of like a command and control system for, right, okay, somebody in my head. So this is how it goes. It's almost like the first person, once you have an idea, of course, but this is all people nobody knew each other, and a call was put out on Facebook, nobody knew anyone, people arrived, and that's what happened, and there was loads of people on the ground. But then it's almost like the first person there, right, you're not flying, you're in charge of assessing the situation and seeing what's happened, and as people come, you've got it out and get it. It's almost more important. Just stop me if I'm talking out of turn here. I just thought it was more important to start having a plan and other people start flying than just rush off to fly for no good reason at all, if you know what I mean. You go over there, go over the hill over there. Well, okay, that's nice. Sorry, Gene, I'm not putting this I should have made a plan, shouldn't I? With this chat,
let me tell you from a search coordinator's position, which I've been into many times. Typically, you'll have some information to begin with, and it'll typically be with your local law enforcement or whoever your rescue team, and you're going to be coming in to supplant that, okay? You're certainly going to try to get as much information as you can get on your own, so that as your assets start coming in, and I'm going to say our assets are drones, okay? As we determine whether we have a really good map or a really bad map, it doesn't matter. We're going to assign those resources. And it's based on the information that we have. We saw the person walking south down this road, or the place last seen is by the trailhead right here, or by this big rock. And then there is a very organized way that you go about a search. There's in the book, you'll see that that there's the wagon wheel, there is the expanding square, where you actually start in a circle and go around and around the place last seen, expanding outwards until you get to about 2 miles. Okay. And 2 miles, when you look at it in diameter, or I guess how many kilometers is that? 3.8, something like that.
Yeah.
It's 4 square miles. That is a lot of geography. Even if you have 100 searchers, it's going to be a lot of geography to cover and to cover effectively. So you're going to have to pick your battles, if you will. You take your map, and you try to use some deductive reasoning to say, okay, since we have the drones, let's fly the easy stuff first. Let's fly down the trail. Let's fly down this road, because we can fly a mile down the road and a mile back very easily and image everything, right? And many times, and Cyrotech and Koster both have verified it, that a big chunk of the people that you find are going to be within 900 feet of the place last seen.
Yeah, that was actually, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly a little bit further than that, but not much further than that was exactly the outcome of this one. Yeah. But so, yeah.
There you go. I mean, already we're applying some of the principles, of conducting a search. Pick your map, pick your sector, pick how you're going to search it based on the terrain. Obviously, if there are big, deep crevices and that sort of thing that you have to deal with, or bodies of water, or, that sort of thing, then you have to take those into consideration. But you can still do it very effectively with drones by making nice little tidy blocks and assigning your crew to each one of those blocks and make sure they get 100% coverage.
Yeah.
It keeps them separated, keeps them out of each other's hair, and then you have actionable intel to work with.
Yeah. It is, as I say, when I was just thinking, what would Gene do? And then I thought, I don't know what Gene would do. I have no idea what Gene would do. But it was the expectation of people there, I suppose, and the hope. There was a very great hope that loads of drones turning up would give an instant answer to a very sad situation, and it wasn't going to happen. But I did feel that, I don't want to make this about me, but I did feel that we could have assisted people searching on the ground a little bit better. And just by giving them some backbone information, and there was no way of disseminating easily that information to a group of volunteers. So you work with professional search and rescue groups. How do they deal with lots of volunteers turning up? What would normally happen? How would you corral them? Because what you wouldn't want to happen is your volunteers turning into the next rescue.
Let me give you a little example. One of the very famous cases here in the United States was Casey Anthony case, small child that went missing and was ultimately deceased. We had been called in on that one twice. And the one thing that we were not prepared for is when we put a call for volunteers out, it wasn't me that put the call out, it was Texas EquiSearch. And they put the call out, and the Saturday that they put the call out, they had 4,000 volunteers show up. And they had 3 people that were trying to coordinate the search. And that was chaos. It was just total chaos. And there were many volunteers that got upset because they weren't deployed right away, and they were trying to, get the coordination done. And it took a while for us to invoke what we call the National Incident Management System for incident command. This is something that almost all of our fire crews and disaster management teams use. And by the way, that's another resource that is free to anybody. You can go to the DHS website, FEMA website, and you can take the first 3 or 4 modules of that for free. And it explains how a structured incident command would work. Very good background material, and it gives you an idea of what the hierarchy should be on a very large scale incident. And it's completely expandable and contractible based on how big it is. It could be one person in charge. It could be multiple people in charge. So that's a good resource right there. And I would urge people to look at it just as a point of reference. You don't have to adhere to it. It's not ironclad, but it gives you a point of reference to start with. So that controlled chaos is what we're trying to get a handle on. And Gary, I got to tell you, I understand just exactly how you feel, because I felt it when I started doing this years ago. It was such an impactful situation. And I can tell you that when you show up with technology, any technology, drones have been, our chosen, the family will put so much pressure on you because it is the technology and they expect it to perform. They hope it performs. Let's put it that way. And it is one of those things that you just really, you have to suck it into your gut and say, look, I'm out here, I'll do the best I can, but to your point, when you know a certain situation, when you're given parameters that by the statistics in the book, it's not going to end well. You have to proceed with that in your mind. I will say never, though, on many of these, because there were several that I had been on that I knew were probably recoveries rather than rescues. Someone who had been out in the West Texas area for 19 days, and he was found alive. And we would not have expected anybody to survive in the desert for that many days. I mean, he was badly sunburnt, very badly dehydrated, but he was alive. So, you look at the numbers, but you always leave that small percentage open that you could have a positive outcome.
Yeah.
So, I've completely sympathized with your frustration and your angst, if you will, about not being able to do a good enough job.
Well, and the reality of this is 10, 11, 12 years ago when you and I started talking, all of this was, as I said at the start, this would be a nice to have idea. This is a sort of a rough consideration. Maybe one day this would be possible. But then when I was at the scene and there were 7 RPAs there, it's like, in my head it was like, this 12 years ago, this wouldn't have happened.
Right.
There would have been me in South Africa, you in your part of Texas, a couple of friends we had in England, a few, we could have known 12 years ago, we probably could have named the people that could have turned up at an event. Yeah, we could have named them. Oh, it'll be him, and her. That's the people that can turn up. And now there's people that you don't know, and you're just thinking, wow, as all this technology and all this stuff, it's moved on to another level of consideration of then scheduling, running out, perhaps not wasting time trying to be a hero, but go from big wide picture stuff down to the narrow stuff, but helping whoever the incident commander is with the most impactful. We could quickly have done mapped a huge area. But so this is a nice to have problem, and a horrible situations, but this is a nice to have problem. Now we have the technology with the power to do this. Now let's just cycle back to locate with an 8, I think you said.
Yes.
So I get locate with an 8. I've got 7 Mavics flying. So help me out with this. So we've flown our grids with Pix 4D capture, what it's called. So I've got 7 Mavics worth of images over quite a large area at say 200 feet. Can I then just pick up all those images and stuff them in, send everybody else up? So and we needed to then to have worked out that there was a color we were looking for. Or can we just say, look for anything unusual in all those images? So first, sorry, I'm thinking aloud here. So can we process, that would be hundreds of images from 7 airframes at the same time. And then do we just set up and go, or must we have already told it, I'm looking for this, or will it look for anything unusual? It couldn't, could it? That must be how. Anyway, over to you, sorry.
Okay. I'm going to address a couple of things there. You had mentioned earlier on, do we shoot video or do we shoot still imagery?
Oh yes.
I'm going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone there, because the folks there at Locate have announced today, and I talked with Patrick earlier on his podcast, but they've come out with Locate Field View. And I've got to say, Gary, I thought I knew a lot about JPEG imagery and how to drill into it, how to process it. And I always said, me, I've always said, you want the highest resolution you can get. And these folks have come up with a method of analyzing the video feed as you fly. And this is
what that makes. Hang on, but why is that better? I don't understand. Why is that better? Why is one better than the other?
First off, they've showed me, and I helped test and some of the prove some of the stuff that in a 1080 video feed that comes down to the controller, if you can put that through Rtmp, just like a YouTube live feed or something like that, you can put it through to anybody in the world. It could be to me. It come to me on your search there in Africa. You could have sent it to me, and I'm running Locate Field View while you're flying the image.
Okay.
And you could still be taking the high resolution images at the same time. So we could, and we would do some deductions if we didn't know what they were wearing. We just say, okay, in this environment, we can start out looking for anything blue because that's common color for people to wear, right? So while it's flying the mission, we can be analyzing the video. And we have determined that typically at 185 to 200 feet, 60 to 80 meters, we can see a 5-inch object.
Can I just hang on? Just stop. So just 60 to 80 meters is that's your preferred operating altitude.
And it is a trade-off between best resolution that you can get on the ground and coverage that you can get from the air. Obviously, if you're at 15 meters, you're going to be able to pick up the smallest detail, but you're going to take thousands of images. So you go up to 60 meters and you cut that 1,000 images down to a couple hundred images.
Yeah.
And for mapping purposes, like Pix4 capture will tell you what your ground sampling distance is. Yeah. And, if you're typically getting an inch, that's really good. So, these are kind of the numbers that we have come to land on that have been the most effective as a balance between coverage, resolution, and speed. So at 185 to 200 feet, 60 to 80 meters, you're looking at doing a square mile and, 2 batteries.
So are there planning tools within this? Can yes. I say, yes. So I could say Mavic number 1, you do over there, Mavic number 2, you're doing that. And then when the big picture comes together, does it fill that big picture in, as it were? So let's just say I'm the incident commander and I can say, oh yeah, 1's done that, 2's done that, 7's over there doing that, 5's doing that. And I'm just coloring in the map, as it were, as we go.
And the cool thing about this is that, we're from incident command, we're at 30,000 feet. We need to see what's going on, right? We don't need to see every individual image. So this software locate has some tools that allows us to do that. As you know, in just about every drone out there, they record the lat, lawn, the altitude, the heading, that sort of thing, right? So there's a tool in there where we can take those thousands of images that we have, extract that information out of it and put it into a KML file. It literally takes seconds. You throw that one over to the incident command and they can see every area that you've flown. It's very quick. It's very quick.
This sounds. I didn't set this up as an advert. This sounds like we're doing.
I didn't either. It just works.
No, I didn't. This is how it's going, but that's fine. That's all good. Because I was then also going to ask you about. So this has led me then to, and I guess I was again. I don't want to make this about me. I was a little bit more worried about, and I will tell you what I thought the best asset that was there was people on horses, and I thought that is better than anyone else. That's what I thought personally, but we'd no idea where they were. So they went off, they rode off over the hill, and they rode off over the hill. So you don't know whether they've all ridden off over the same bit of the hill, the next bit of the hill, or whatever. So I was thinking there must be some way of, and of course, in the deep valley that it was, the internet coverage was terrible. Of course it is. It's like mandatory, isn't it? If you're in trouble, you're not going to be in a place with the internet. So I started looking at software, and what I wanted to ask you is, have you come across or used, and we'll come back to locate, but Tactical Awareness Kit and Android Tactical Awareness Kit, have you used that at all? Because so far I think that's probably where in my head I'm going after I've had a look at this locate stuff.
It's gaining popularity. The Android Tactical Kit is gaining popularity. However, there has been a lot of other tools out there. GPS trackers was one of the ones that we used very early on. You have the Rhino radios that GPS. Those are very helpful. So you give one of those to the horseback rider, to the team lead or whatever, and you can see where he rode all over the hills and stuff like that. Again, I've done a lot with horseback. Obviously, with Texas EquiSearch, they do a lot of that too. But they do go in a lot of places, and they're high up, so they can see a little bit better than the person on the ground. And one of the things that I always tell a ground searcher is that if you can't see the person's feet next to you, then you're going to miss something. So, that's what you have to deal with when you're out there. So if you're in thick brush, brambles, that sort of thing, you have to make your spacing closer and closer so that you get that 100% coverage on the ground. Okay.
My rah-rah for TAC is that I've discovered they've got a software modem. So if you hold up your normal radio and to your smartphone, you can get all the positions and everybody updated and stuff if you're in a deep bush. Because we do all rush to the most highest technology solutions, don't we? It'll be everything will be 5G. When everything's 5G, no one will get lost and everything will be solved really, really quickly. But most of the world isn't like that. But yeah, again, I'm ranting at you, but I thought there has to be more stuff available to make this easier, just to know where your assets are. Forget searching. Let's send 50 people out into the bush on horses, motorbikes, and whatever, and let's follow them. And let's have that all on one screen somewhere, and let's have no internet. How are we going to do that? And I would use APRS from the radio ham world and stuff like that. But again, you're dealing with volunteers that just turn up, isn't it? Or even just now I am ranting at you, but even just a pegboard. I thought we could have just had a pegboard. We've sent Trevor over the hill on his horse, peg on here. Sally's gone down the river in a canoe, peg over here. We had no idea where all these volunteers were, and that really worried me. And that's nothing to do with drones, which is what we're supposed to be talking
about. Logistics.
But yeah, I was just like, this will never work. We don't know how efficient it will be. So anyway, let's go back to the software you're talking about. So I've stuffed in all these images into a computer.
Yep.
Or how am I sending it online somewhere to get processed, or am I doing it locally?
Oh no. You do not need the internet to run. If you have a laptop, it'll run on a standard laptop. You just dump them into the laptop and hit the button and let it go. It will ping you and let you know when, or it'll show you that it has targets, acquired targets. It's got one of the best image viewers in it that I've used. You can use any image viewer to look at a picture like Microsoft Office or VLC or whatever, IR fan view. But this one is really a squints viewer because it has.
Does squints actually stand for something, or is it just a term you use?
It's a term that I use, but I didn't come up with it. I borrowed it from World War II. The guys.
Oh, okay.
The guys that they flew out and they got the black and white pictures, and then they had these huge pictures, and that guy with the jeweler's booth is over there.
Yeah. So I call him a photographer, a photo interpreter. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They were lovingly called squints. Yeah, they were photography analysts or whatever you want to call them, but the rest of their mates called them squints. So that's. This particular piece is really, really good for, in my view. Not only does it circle the target and mark it with a color that you choose, you can zoom into that object with one keystroke.
So I've done that. Well, that's all great, and there it is, and I'm sat looking at it. So then on my wireless, I'm saying 51, 47.4, 39.22, 1447. How do I easily, effectively communicate that to somebody who's on the field?
Okay, if you have cell phone, that your fallback is going to be exactly what you just did. I mean, if there is nothing else out there, you're going to be going, okay, stand by for the numbers. Here they come.
Yeah.
I mean, that's. And other than that, it's carrier pigeon, right?
Yes.
The good thing about this is that if this target is something that you want to investigate, you flag it. It produces a portable document file, a PDF, that you can send via the cell phone, goes right to their phone, and it gives them the coordinates, a thumbnail, and the national grid coordinates as well.
And it'll jump on. I guess it'll jump onto a pin. Dan Cassidy's asking what squints. And Dan, look, Dan's even got a spelling for it. There it is. Squints like that. No, I don't think we'd say that in real English. But anyway, what squints package are you talking about?
It's actually the viewer that is in Locate, LOC8. And if you want to, you can download a 21-day copy of it from their website.
A link for this. A proper person would have a link ready for this. Is LOCT8, is it?
No. LOC, the number 8.
Yeah, LOC, number 8.
LIFE. Locate.
Life.com, is it?
No. Just www.locate.life.
Oh, .life. Oh, okay. Oh, the other one's the insurance company. So professional, so professional. It's almost seamless, this, isn't it? But dear viewers, and welcome to everyone that's here from both LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. If it's your first time here, I genuinely try not to come up with questions, because we never here. I'm going to put the real link in here. We don't have. If I come up with question lists, it's never very real. If I make it up on the hoof, I always think it's real, or I'm lazy. It's one or the other. But yeah, I don't end up asking real questions. So there's the link for those that are looking for it. Locate.life. So all right. So this is the package that you've been involved in. Well, what else might I buy if I wasn't going to buy that package? Or how much does it cost, I suppose?
Well, I mean, they're getting kicked off, and it's the pro package is $750.
Is that once off or per year?
Yeah, one off. That's one off. It's tied to the machine that you work with. They do some fancy hash with the email, and it gives you your whatever. So it's on that machine. Obviously, if you're into a situation where you need help, you can call them. Anybody can call me. Okay, if they're in a situation where they're collecting data, I'd be happy to help them. The Locate folks are happy to help, and we'll do whatever we can, because that's what we do, guys. I mean, we're search and rescue, right? Of course, we've learned that as they've gotten the software out there, there's been hundreds of other uses for it that we never thought about. But what
else would I use it for then?
Invasive species.
Yeah. Actually, I could use it for that. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, there's that, and of course there's drug detection and that sort of thing.
Drug detection. What do you mean drug detection? How can we do drug detection?
Marijuana.
That's just another species. That's not drug detection. That's plant detection. That's the same thing. You're talking about the same thing.
Okay. I mean, it's kind of a different kind of a genre, but yeah. And they're just they're coming up with new stuff all the time, and they've got some stuff coming up for the next year that that AI is going to be involved, and you're just going to, instead of worrying about shades and colors and stuff like that, you'll just say, go out and find me anything blue or red or green or yellow or whatever, and it'll just run. They're going to be putting onboard processors using board computers in drones to actually do it on board. But one of the things, this is, I was so excited about it. That with Tridge, that gets real-time intel versus analyzing.
After the fact, we can talk about that in a minute.
Yes, we can do that, Chris. Just give me a minute. But I had, as an IT guy, I always knew a computer could do it. I knew that there would be some way. I was a database guy, though. I wasn't a graphics guy. So I never could figure that magic out. Tridge came close with when they were doing the Outback Challenge.
Yeah.
But that's all he was interested in doing. And then these guys came up with it. The guy out of Canada came up with the algorithm on this thing, and I was so blown away by it. I said, I don't care what happens. I want to be involved. And
we're going again. I'm sorry to stop you in your tracks and rant again a little bit, but we're going from when you and I first met. Autopilots basically only just kept the things the right way up. I don't think we could properly do waypoints yet, could we? And GPS, the actual GPS units we were using cost more than the autopilot GPS and everything that everyone uses now. And people moan when the latest, greatest GPS that is way, way better than anything we ever had costs, for argument's sake, $300. People throw their toys out of the cot. And it's like, whoa, no, 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 no. That was that, we were paying more than that. So where I was trying to go with that was, so we've got to the point where the platforms can fly and get them
Yes.
to do what we want to do. We have comms links, we have video links, we have all the links we need in the world, and we are coming to the perhaps we're only just arriving at the point, because of artificial intelligence and better sensors and stuff, where they really are going to be properly useful. Perhaps we're only at the dawn of really, really, really useful stuff. Sorry. Anyway, I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
I totally agree with you, and I remember the halcyon days of trying to get an autopilot to lock onto a satellite long enough to fly in a circle.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I remember when flying in circles, like, we can fly in circles. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a big thing. And then, wouldn't it be nice if we could reach a waypoint at a given height, at a given speed, and going in a given direction? That would be so cool.
And take a picture.
And take a picture. Yeah, imagine we could do all those things. Just imagine we could do that.
Yeah, yeah, it was. Yeah. But I mean, hey, we were on the bleeding edge, and it was kind of gruesome sometimes. But now we look at it, it's almost rote. It's a given. And everybody flies waypoint missions, and again, I said it probably a dozen years ago that drones will become more efficient and better tools as the payloads develop. Yeah. And that just happened. I mean, look at, we're now carrying the highest, megapixel imagers that we can in a small package. We've got near infrared that nobody ever thought about loft and near infrared. And here we are finding, cadavers and bodies that have been buried 2 years ago. And that's another project that I'm working on there.
Well, if you hadn't watched Gene, yeah, the trouble with talking Gene over the years is whilst it's very, very interesting, the stuff you do, it's always very grim. It's not jolly, it's not like, and Gene develops burgers for McDonald's or something, or the latest lovely drink, or works with top models or something. No, it's bodies in the body farm. That's your bread.
Yeah, in fires. I do a lot of fires.
Oh, lovely. That's so positive.
But, okay, well, let's get back to Chris's question, where he's talking about photo analysis versus actionable intel. One of the things that we strive to do in a search, and it's something that I've always said, is that minutes matter, right? And the analysis that we do of images, whether it's with this or whether it's with this, a computer, is the thing that improves our efficiency. And the quicker that we can get that out there, as soon as we get a trained individual to look at it, and again, this is a distributive network. When you look at it from standpoint, we can send video to anywhere and analyze it anywhere in the world, which means that everybody would have access to somebody like myself who has squinted images before, or my wife, or whoever else we've got in the network. That gives the incident command actionable intel in minutes, as versus hours, if sometime never. So I think that as we move forward with this distributive network of software and capabilities, that actionable intel and the photo analysis, it's going to come together very quickly and very closely, so that it may not be real time, but it'll be minute time. That's what I'm calling it, is minute time.
Minute time. And those books that you had probably have. So this Dankers is what about fencing sardines right towards in-reach satellite communications. Yeah, I mean, there's got to be a unifying standard somewhere one day.
It's expensive.
Say again?
It's expensive. Right now, and Gary and I were talking about this. There is no money in saving lives, unfortunately. I've been doing it for so long because I actually did it to kind of circumvent the FAA. when they said no commercial flights. So I got a 501c3 and said, I'm going to go out and do search and rescue. And it did rock them back on their heels a little bit. And that worked great until I made my first find. And when I did that, I fell out of that tree and hit 100 branches on the way down and was convinced that that's what drones should be used for. And I do it now because it's the right thing. You know, it's the right thing to do. You go help. I'm up to 20 now that I personally, out of the 500 that DJI said in their little article this week, 20 of those are mine. And one of the things that a drone does is it empowers an individual to make the greatest impact on a given situation using that technology. Much more so. Go ahead.
Well, as long as you don't just all rush it like a bull in a china shop.
Yeah, it's got to be used properly. Yes, it does have, and we don't want to talk about people who self-deploy at disasters and clog things up, you know, by being because I did the Hurricane Harvey thing. That was a, even though they call it a high water mark. Was
that the one where we spoke to you live when we were doing it?
Yeah, we did a live cast. I was on the coast of Texas, and we were using the mission caster. Remember the mission caster that KSI Sciences did? Yeah. Okay. We're kind of rehashing some of the good old days, but I mean, and that worked well. I mean, we streamed video back. You got to see what we were doing, and had you been incident command, you would have seen what we saw. So I mean, there you go. That's not minute time. That's real time, low latency video.
Are there real in the world of grown-ups? Are there complete command and control packages that can bring in? Because I'll tell you another thing that happened was people were ringing in and saying, one person rang in and said, we used to own the farm, and 30 years ago there was a big pit. I can't remember where the big pit was, but we used to chuck when cattle died, we chucked cattle down into this pit, and it was so deep we never knew where it went. So immediately everyone was then panicking about, well, where was this pit and all this sort of thing. But more overarching than that is if you're bringing in stories and information or a narrative from other people coming in other ways, you almost need to you must sort of distill that and have that in one point, and then perhaps that's the incident commander then decides whether that information goes out to one or many, or filters it or whatever, but then builds an entire narrative that has a timeline with this person said this person said that. Is there software for doing that? Perhaps open source, because I couldn't afford to buy it. But do grown-ups have that sort of system that brings the narrative together?
Not as you described it, not per se. Look, you've got to put together a mission plan. No matter, you know, whether you're using drones or people or horses or ATVs or anything else like that. And that plan has to have a deployment schedule on it, a deployment scheme, if you will. You have to look at the environment that you're in. You know, are you hills, are you swamps, are you riverine, or, you know, on and on and on, because, you know, obviously you don't want to send a horse into a swamp, right?
Sure.
So all that sort of decision-making process is in the incident commander's head to best utilize those resources. Software, there are softwares out there that do keep up with where resources have gone. You're using as far as the satellite is concerned, you can use the spot and those sorts of things to help keep up with your people. And trust me, being able to keep up with the people that are out in the field is one of the biggest responsibilities of any search coordinator, because I've been on those searches where we ended up counting noses at dusks, you know, and there's one missing. Where did they go? Whose team were they with? And then you have to start, you know, back hauling from there, and you end up having to go rescue the rescuer.
Yeah.
Which burns resources. And so all of that has to be coordinated within the mission plan. And there are some folks that are working on some pieces right now that are incomplete. But like the Android TAC thing is another good example, and again, it's one of those ones that is a work in progress. And there are so many variables in a search that have to be kept up with. Some of them are human factors, some of them are mechanical, some of them are, and that's why you see the Unified Incident Command System has areas of responsibility for each one of those. Okay, so it's kind of a divide and conquer kind of a situation, because for a single individual to keep up with that, it's pretty difficult.
Sure. Yeah. Well, the analogy, I don't want to make this about me, but all I think about in the Air Force, to avoid remembering stuff, write it on the wall. If you're in a place so you don't have to remember stuff, checklists, you're an aviator as well, checklists and stuff like that, because you're a dumb youngster, you don't remember nothing. So just put it on the wall or put it on a checklist and go through it, and just make sure you cover those bases. And that was something I thought was the situation was immediately crying out for, was just, well, have we done this, have we done that, have we done the other, and then tick stuff off. So I'm guessing if I go to that FEMA website, I might find stuff like that.
The government doesn't endorse anything. They can't endorse softwares and that sort of thing. So no, you won't find any of that, but you'll find the mechanics behind it for anybody who's doing it. I mean, they recommend that you do the checklist, and that you have people with the right documentation cover all the areas, and that's why I recommend it, because it is a good starting point. Okay, and there are some folks out there that are taking those starting points and putting them into a software package. SARTopo is one of them. I'll throw that out there. They use topo maps and keep up with your resources and that sort of thing. It doesn't record results yet, which is something that is obviously going to be necessary. And then if you start looking at the Esri search and rescue stuff that's out there, that is a very complex piece. And you have to have GIS people on board. You have to have folks that are familiar with some of the Esri concepts, and it's a complex little issue. And you going out there, I mean, bless your heart, you going out there and taking that on unprepared, I just can't believe what you had to go through.
Well, no. I just had to turn up and go, I'm not doing this very well. That's all I had to do.
It shows inadequacies everywhere, and if you're the guy at the top, I mean, if that finger is going to be pointing right at you, and it's hard to get around.
But the reason I wanted to have this video with you is because as a community of drone operators around the world, many of our viewers are going to be in exactly the same situation.
Yes.
They're going to call upon, and it does immediately make me think we should have some sort of here's a basic plan, and at the top of the basic plan, there's a manned aircraft land. It's simple things like that. But just about when somebody turns up first, you're in charge, don't go flying. Sam says tabletop exercises. Well, that is, again, that's the military stuff, isn't it? It's exercise, play this, play that, keep running through it. And that's what you should probably, of course, that's what you should do. And you shouldn't just rock up with the idea. And similarly, you shouldn't rock up and say, we've done loads of tabletop exercises, so we're experts. We know exactly what we're doing. You shouldn't do that either. But it would be, maybe Gene, we could work on some sort of training or something for idiots like me and other idiots, any idiot that watches our channel.
It's a matter of fact, that's what I'm doing. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. I wrote the book First to Deploy, and people have been bugging me forever to finish the second book, because I've started it. I'm about 100,000 words in, and we start talking about a lot of the missions that we went on, and the very things that we're talking about that we encountered. And because every search is different.
Sure.
Every circumstance is different, and you have to react to it in a completely different way. There are similarities to a lot of them, but man, some of them will they'll throw you for a loop, and you just kind of, you scratch your head and go, well, how did that happen?
And to all the people, I mean, there are people that I've had you in it. Oh, it was 25 seconds off an hour. But
We go on for 8 days.
But well, let's we should probably go. But all around the world, there are people that volunteer and search and look for people, and go off in the high seas. If they're Coast Guard, they climb up mountains in terrible weather. They do all this stuff, and we must all, we have to applaud them and thank them very, very much for the efforts that they make, and we must never ever get in the way of them as an RPAS operator. We must always stay back and take our cue from the professionals. But I do think perhaps as an industry or as a group of individuals, we could take a few minutes to stop and think about what might happen. And I should have done that, and I didn't. As I say, I've spoken to you for more than 10 years, and I haven't stopped to think, what would I do if I was called upon to do anything? And I didn't. Well, I did, but I didn't. I didn't do it very well. So yeah, Gene, please, when you finish writing that book, let's have another chat or two, or let's write our own checklist or do our own thing for the industry and get it out there.
Absolutely. I think it's time. Like you said, the drone industry is coming of age where it could be used more effectively, and effectively requires some knowledge.
Yeah, you're right. Gene, thank you very, very much for taking the time to talk to me.
Anytime, Gary.
It is. What would Gene do in these? In a lot of, what would Gene do is the thing you have to ask yourself. And dear viewers, it's the first time we've seen Gene on the channel. Have a look back through the back catalogue. It's there. Even Texas EquiSearch is back there. I think I'm probably getting on for 10 years ago. That video, that's there. It's all there on the channel. Look after yourselves wherever you're in the world. Be safe with the current situation. Wear a mask, wash your hands, stay away from people, be unfriendly, just stay away from people. But be careful out there, people. And we'll see you again for our daily news sometime about lunchtime tomorrow and at 2100 GMT every Tuesday. Until then, Gene, thank you very much to your viewers. Take care. Bye-bye for now.
Cheers. Have a good holiday.
Cheers, man.